This video is brought to you by Mox Valley Games. Check out the link in the description. Alright, so for today's gameplay episode, we have Red Green Law versus Bonney. Notably, Red Green Law starting us off going first, passing the turn, not playing a 1-drop, whereas us, the Bonney player, plays a Baby 5, searching out a 10-cost Doflamingo. Passing it back over to our Red Green Law player, he's going to swing with his leader into our Baby 5, trying to deny us, that recursive draw value, and then he's going to play a 2-cost Curly Didon and search out an Otama, and he's going to pass the turn. On our turn, we're simply going to swing 5 at life and then play an Arouge and pass, but I really want to highlight this as a case study for this format. Simply attacking 5 into life can be such a costly thing to do sometimes. You really need to pick and choose when you're giving your opponent resources. Now, I don't know if it was necessarily a misplay here, but just in general, this format is defined by when you decide to go for board and when you decide to give your opponent a life. I think it truly sets apart good players from great players. Now we're going to see the Red Green Law player play out a Curly Didon and search up a 1-cost Chopper Blocker. Next up, he's going to play a 3-cost Chopper Blocker, and I want you to keep this card in mind because it is so influential on this match. It causes me to make different plays simply because of its presence. And I think this is another great example where we see him pass turn without attacking because he wants to deny me resources, and I think it's just correct. I think this game ultimately comes down to fighting for board, and I don't think you want to give your opponent the resources to establish more bodies as well as protect those bodies. I'm going to simply swing 6 on my turn, and you're going to see that I drop down the 5-cost Bonney, which freezes one of his Dawn, which I don't know how useful that is here. I'm pretty sure I didn't have a Cavendish in my hand, otherwise I would have probably set that up. Also, Basil there would have been pretty good because he doesn't have a blocker law out. Now, he decides to finally attack my life, and I decide to take it, obviously, because drawing cards is always free. Now, I rested the Chopper after I took the life, which I was supposed to do it before, but this is my first time playing Bonney, so oops. Now we're going to see him play his most valuable searcher, the Jewelry Bonney, and he's going to search out Cavendish, which is just one of the strongest combos that EBO1 Law has gotten. And we're going to see him play out the 1-cost Tony Chopper Blocker, and then he's going to shambles back the rested blocker, playing out the 5-cost Law, and you can just see how much value he's able to extract, bouncing back his searcher, and then essentially re-standing the Chopper Blocker after I rested it. Just very good sequence of cards right there. Now, on my turn, you're going to see me swing 7 at life with my leader. He's going to decide to block with the Chopper because, one, he probably wants to shambles next turn anyway, and then also, I am actually putting on a little bit of pressure now. Now, you'll see me play the Basil Hawkins here, but after reviewing the footage, I thought about this. If I had the Hawkins, it's definitely correct to play the Hawkins last turn and then Bonney this turn, because now he's at 9 Dawn, which means it means he can just play 9-cost Zoro. Now, I'm not sure if I had the Hawkins on curve, but if I did, that is definitely a little bit of a misplay for sure. Now, this might be the most influential turn of the entire match. You're going to see me swing. First, I swing 6 with Bonney. He's going to go ahead and 2k counter out of that, and then I'm going to swing 6 with my leader. And at this point, he thinks for a pretty long time about what he should do, and he goes ahead and blocks with the Law and then 1Ks. So I think he basically thinks that I'm not going to punish that, which is a fair assumption because if I do, he has that Zoro that can just completely clear my board. And you're going to see me throw down the 8-cost Kid, and you see that I attach a Dawn to it, but I kind of hesitate for a moment, and I just spend so much time thinking about whether or not it's correct to rest the Kid here because of the Chopper and the Zoro. So basically, the conclusion that I come to, which in hindsight is very obvious, but when I was thinking about it, I just couldn't figure out whether it was correct or not. The chopper can just minus my kid, and then the Zoro can clear my entire board. So it's objectively incorrect to tap my kid here, and I have 4 life. So essentially what I can do is I can just force him to attack my life and draw me resources. And I believe I have a 10 cost Dofi in hand, which is what I am going to play on my next turn. And that, I think, is the defining moment of this matchup. Not tapping my kid and having him attack it and kill it and clear my board, but instead forcing him to attack life and give me resources. Now you're going to see him attach 2 Dawn and swing 6 into my Bonney, -3ing the Hawkins, which allows me to tap his Zoro. And I feel like this play makes sense, but at the same time, letting me tap the Zoro is kind of rough. And also, I don't know if minusing the Hawkins is actually that good, because I don't really want to tap the Hawkins down, because then he can clear it with Zoro. And again, I want him to focus on my life, which at the same time, I then counter the Bonney swing, and I think that is a misplay. I should just let the Bonney die, force him to swing on my life, and then just try and clear board. But I think I was just like worried about not having enough characters on board or something. I'm not really sure what the logic was. And then we just see him untap and swing into the Bonney, and I think this is why he should have just swung the chopper and minused the Bonney here. But we're going to see him swing 5 into my life, and I'm going to take it, obviously, because that is free value. So after I take, we're going to see him swing 8 with his 5 cost blocker law at my life, which I also take. And then he is going to shambles the chopper back, playing the restand law, restanding his whole board and just kind of passing the turn, which I think is definitely a powerful position to be in, because now I am forced to attack into his life, giving him more resources, and he is clearly at the advantage in this position. I do have a kid, but at the same time, he has the Zoro. But the big difference between this board state and the previous board state is now that chopper isn't there. So now when I swing with my kid, a lot of things are going to change. Now we're actually going to see him swing with the Zoro, and I decide to block because of I just don't want to be in range of like a restand and blockable Luffy combo, but I'm pretty sure the whole plan of my turn is to activate Kid, so I'm not sure the logic behind that. I'm going to swing 5, trying to bait out something from him, either blocking with Law or just a counter, and I also swing the Arouge, which is a rather aggressive play. But we're going to see that I play the 10 cost Dofi on this turn. He counters out with the Robin. I swing 8 with the Kid. He takes it, and then I play 10 cost Dofi. Only freezing 2 characters, but I do think it is necessary just because you have to establish a board. But I don't know if swinging Arouge was necessarily correct. Arouge is like a really important character, and he does have 2 attackers that can attack into it. So that is definitely a position that I open myself to, but I think building the Dofi can hopefully help me kill the Zoro, or just at least put enough pressure on him, because you have to remember he is at 1 life with only 1 blocker in play, so he is on the back foot for sure. We're going to see him play out an Otama, and he's going to go ahead and minus the Kid by 2, making it a 6k, and swing 8 with his blocker law into it. And I decide to +3 for some reason. I genuinely don't know why I did that. I think I'm just trying not to take too much damage because I'm just afraid of that restand Luffy combo. But it's pretty obvious that he's just going to clear my board regardless. So yeah, I don't really like countering here. I think you just let it die, but whatever. And then we see him swing 8 at Kid, which yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think there's also just an argument with how low I am on life that you can just kind of like be really aggressive here, and you just attack my face. It's hard to say though, because you don't want to let me untap with that board because of the position that you're in. but it is definitely a potential option you can go for, especially because Bonney has a lot of brick in the deck. And I decide to just counter out, and as you can see, I'm just fully committed to protecting this kid, which I think is just like pretty foolhardy at this point, because I know he can just restand the Zoro, and it's probably safe to assume that he has a Rush Luffy or some kind of rush card to get in there. And yeah, he's just gonna go ahead and swing 9 into the kid, and it's just too much for me to counter out with what I had in my hand. So I do decide to let the kid die. I probably should have let it die a little sooner, but I was just playing very conservatively, I guess, in a weird way. He's gonna go ahead and shambles one of his characters back to go ahead and play out the Rush Luffy. And you can see that he swings it at the Arouge, but to be honest, I think you just hold the Rush Luffy up here, and because you really need to play around a 10 cost Dofi, because I think if I have the second 10 cost Dofi here, the momentum shifts in my favor a lot with just being able to tap 3 dudes on board. And you can see that I do have it, and I decide to just go for the characters. And I think if he leaves the Rush Luffy up, he actually has a lot of ground to just go unblockable restand law combo into like either a Dofi or into my life and just force me at 0. And then all of a sudden I'm in a position where I have to kill him or I lose. And as you can see in his hand, he has Rad Beam plus a lot of counters. So there's just like, there's a lot of outs for him in that scenario, I think, especially because he can bounce back the Otama. And we're going to see him swing 5 at life. And I'm just going to go ahead and 1K. I have very few cards in my hand at this point. I basically am kind of forced to go for game next turn or I'm dead because of the Zoro. So we see him pay 2, restand the Zoro. And he's going to go ahead and swing at my life. And I just go ahead and block with the Rouge. Makes sense.
We're going to see that the red-green law player is going to shambles back his Otama, playing out
the restand law to restand his blocker law, and then he's going to go ahead and pay 3 to play out the chopper from earlier. So now it looks like he is actually in a really strong position defensively, but the problem here is that you're going to see on my turn that I play the Horty Jones, which just unfortunately is going to completely cripple all of his defenses. And so I think, honestly,
the red-green law player's best out was to
go ahead and go for game at one of the turns before I played the Dofi. Like, obviously it was rough, but me being able to just Horty there just totally won me the game. And I think it's a much different game if he doesn't swing the Luffy into my Rouge, is my understanding of this match. This matchup in particular is just very complicated. There's a lot of intricacy. So shout out to my opponent. He did a really good job. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and have a good one.